Can you tell us your name and what company you work for?
So my name is Junaed Sattar. I work for the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I'm also affiliated with the Minnesota Robotics Institute.
What does an average day at work look like?
There is no average at work for me, actually, because, well, I'll explain why. Summertime, I don't teach usually. So my time is devoted mostly towards research. I mean, mostly because there are other things we have to do, like writing proposals that funds our research, so to speak. Then student supervision, which is part of research as well. We often hold outreach events, like talking to folks like yourselves from schools and K-12 grade students, or the broader community. Sometimes we go out, especially in the summers in Minnesota. We do what's known as lake trials because some of my work involves running robots in open waters and lakes and rivers. So we do those things on certain weeks and on certain months during the summertime. On the fall and spring semesters, that's basically beginning next week till all the way down to, I guess, middle of May. An average day would involve teaching, involve student consulting hours, talking to our teaching assistants, on top of what I just mentioned, those things. So that's about as average as I can make it.
So you say you're teaching. What kind of classes do you teach? Could you give us an example?
Right. So usually it's computer science, anything that is an undergraduate computer science curriculum or a graduate CS curriculum. And often it's in my specialized area of robotics, computer vision, which is the area of how our biological vision can be replicated in machines. It's actually a little bit misinforming you right there. It's not really replicating the biological process, but given that we have cameras, can those cameras act as eyes as we use our own for those machines? And it's a very hand-wavy explanation. Then I teach programming languages like Python and C++. I've taught in the past classes on operating systems and Java, and also, I'm forgetting something here, algorithms, theoretical foundations in computer science.
What is your favorite part of your job?
Oh, that's a hard choice, actually. It's basically the research, and through the research, I get to interact with these really capable, really intelligent folks who are involved in research as grad students and undergrads and even high school volunteers for that matter. So this collective engagement in research and the kind of research that I do, as I said, in marine robotics, underwater robotics, it's really exciting. I think anything that kind of culminates into us working together on giving robots its capabilities is really one of my favorite. And I'm not going to pick one, but it is going to be one of my favorite things to do in my job. Teaching, I love teaching as well. I really can't single out something that's, oh, I really hate this part of my job. I can really say that at this point. Maybe the administrative stuff. We all have to do that, like writing expense reports and stuff like this. That is not my favorite. Other than that, yes, everything else is great.
So how much schooling did you have to do to get to where you are today?
All right, so I have a PhD. So that means, you do 1 to 12, and then you go through undergraduate. So in my case, I actually started off as a master's student. I didn't want to do a PhD at the moment, at the time. I was more interested in doing an industry job, but through my first year of my master's program, I discovered what robotics and research is all about. So I kind of did a U-turn there and decided to pursue that. So that's about 12 years of college, to a high school, 4 years of college on top of that. It's usually 5-ish years. It's plus minus a bit like that. It could be 4.5, it could be 6, but 5-ish years of university as in grad school to get a PhD degree.
What initially sparked your interest in STEM, and how has that passion evolved over the years?
Chemistry, chemical reactions. And specifically electrolysis. So you know how you put those electrodes in a brine solution, and then you see the hydrogen go one way and the sodium go the other, and blah blah blah. Actually, the chlorine and the sodium, essentially. I thought that was very cool, and I needed to do more, and I wanted to invest more. And interestingly enough, I do something that has nothing to do with chemistry. It has to do with physics and math. Math has always been something that appealed to me. in general. But to be really honest with you, this curiosity that drives what is STEM now came from me doing those chemistry experiments. Some of them were actually less than safe, but let's not even go there. Chemistry tends to be a bit dangerous if you're not being careful. So that's it. And then I got into computer science. That was after high school, actually. Back in the day, we didn't have a lot of computing access, or we didn't even know what computers were like. And I come from South Asia. That wasn't really, people didn't come up growing up with, Ataris and Commodores and stuff like that at the time. So I got exposed to computers through a friend who had a big old machine for mostly word processing. And I thought that was really cool. And I really got hooked to it. And I thought, hey, this is something that I want to pursue as a career. And so that was it. So I was 16, I guess, at the time that I made up that mind. I'm not even 16, just a little younger than 16. I looked at my first computer and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I want to do more of that. So yeah.
So thinking about that, did you like know any other engineers that you're like, ooh, like that kind of suggested, oh, like this might be a good career for you if you're interested in this kind of stuff?
Not computer engineering per se. My sister is a chemical engineer. She's older, so she is a chem eng, and I didn't have anything against it. It's just that I wasn't. I have civil engineers in my own family. Like I'm not the first to go to college or go to engineering school. I have a cousin who's a mech engineer. I have a brother-in-law who's doing civil engineering, who he's retired now. Actually, he's been 40 years in the business, so been doing that for a while. Yeah, so I was exposed to seeing, elder, quote unquote, predecessors, so to speak. I wouldn't say role models per se, but they were people who went through engineering and medicine and other STEM disciplines, even applied physics for that matter. But nobody did computer science until I stepped up and did that. Mostly because it was a very new discipline at the time. And also at the time, you had to be really, really good. We had an entrance exam, so you had to do like really well. Like the top 50 students would be given that opportunity to study CS. There wasn't too many colleges offering CS degrees. So we studied hard, worked hard, and did well to get into it. So that's how it began.
Finally, if you had the chance to change your field of research, would you? And what would it be?
No and no. No, I mean, I really wouldn't. I mean, I feel like I barely am scratching the surface, and I'll explain why. Because robotics has become such a multidisciplinary avenue, and we all call this AI these days, right? But depending on who you're asking, like if you're asking me, I'd say robotics includes AI, and somebody might say, well, AI includes robotics. I say it's the flip flop, same coin, different sides. And we have just barely started to see how that can actually affect our day-to-day life. Robotics have been mostly industrial in the well, not even in the US, it has mostly been military, actually. In Japan, it's been more humanoids. In Europe, it's been industrial. But now we're like doing everyday things. And you have a Roomba at home. You have robot pets. You have self-driving cars and all the things. This is sort of getting to a point that robotics is going to affect our lives in a much more significant way than it has been in the last few years. So I'm very excited. So I don't see any reason for me to change my research area. Actually, I'm really quite excited about it, looking at the future.